Before dawn on the 12th of March, a Russian officer walked into his barracks to give orders. But little did he know that he would not survive for the next 30 minutes. The Russian Revolution had begun. The emperor of the largest country in the world was overthrown so fast that people blinked and missed it. There was a second revolution in July, which failed. Then there was a military coup in September, which failed. And the Bolsheviks took much of the credit for defeating that military coup. So they surged in popularity and decided that it was time for them to launch their own revolution. So they did. There was a coup in Tallinn, a coup in Petrograd, and a coup in Moscow. Many people believe that the October Revolution was just one revolution. And within a matter of days, much of European Russia was under Bolshevik control. The Bolsheviks sent a delegation to negotiate peace with Germany, and then they lost an election. So they used their substantial military force to make sure they stayed in power anyway. With their position in power briefly secured, they now had to deal with rebel groups rising up against them. A few months prior, Ukraine had declared autonomy. Now, they were declaring full independence. So, a Bolshevik force departed from Kharkov to take Kiev. Due to the numerous workers' revolutions in Ukraine, the Bolsheviks were able to take town after town after town. The Ukrainian army fell back to Kiev in time to crush rebellion, but the city fell to the Red Guards. So with that, it seemed Bolshevism had won. They had taken over Ukraine, but the defeated Ukrainian army was returning to the city, and they brought with them the armies of the German Empire and Austria-Hungary. You see, Ukraine had concluded a peace treaty with the Central Powers. One of the terms of that treaty was that the German Empire would kick the Bolsheviks out of Ukraine. So in they went. The Soviet government in Ukraine fled across the Dnieper faster than a very fast thing. Germany occupied all of Ukraine, with its military becoming the de facto government. And that wasn't the only problem suffered by the Bolsheviks. A Cossack named Alexei Kaledin became ruler of the Don region, and he offered sanctuary to anybody opposing the Bolsheviks. Meanwhile, a group of Tsarist generals announced that they were forming a volunteer army to, quote, defend the people of South and Southeastern Russia. As recruits started flowing in, they quickly went from 0 to 3,000 men. The Bolshevik army was dispatched to deal with these problems. Kaledin was defeated, the Tsarists were sent running. The volunteer army decided to join the Cossack forces, holding out in Ekaterinodar. But by the time they arrived there, the Cossacks had fled, and the city had fallen to the Bolsheviks. The volunteer army was able to establish communication with the surviving Cossacks. Together, they agreed to unite their two forces and attempt to retake Ekaterinodar. Their 9,000 men assaulted 30,000 Bolshevik troops in the city. The fighting lasted 4 days. Even their leader, General Kornilov, was killed. The survivors of the volunteer army relocated to the Don, where thousands more Cossacks joined their ranks, and thousands more went into open revolt against the Bolsheviks. As Germany occupied Rostov, Lenin realized he had lost control of the Don region. In just a couple of months, the Bolsheviks had gone from almost certainly going to become the government of Russia to getting beaten bloody in Ukraine by Germany and getting pummeled in the Caucasus by Cossacks. Romania then invaded and annexed Bessarabia. Soon, this civil war would escalate to the point where all of Siberia was going to war against the Bolsheviks, and white troops were 300 miles from Moscow. This was the Russian Civil War, a war which would kill almost 9 million people, and I would argue had just as great an effect on the outcome of history as the First World War. Come back next week for the next installment in the Russian Revolution series.